Hello. So thank you for watching my last video on coronavirus layoffs and why you shouldn't do it. I got some feedbacks, appreciate it. One particular feedback I want to sort of address today in this video, which was, this was useful, what I had in the previous video, but you didn't really give us any alternatives. So right now I'm a leader in an organization, and I'm faced with the harsh reality that I have to bring my costs down, and I'm being pressured to lay off people. And you didn't give any alternatives that I should take. You're telling me not to do it, but you didn't tell me what I can do instead. And that's true. I did not give any alternatives. So I do want to address that in this video. But before I dive in, I want to make a distinction between two things: corrective measures and preventative measures. So in the medical field, for example, if I'm sick and I have a flu, then a corrective measure would be like I would go to the doctor, they would give me medicine, they will send me to rest, and so on and so forth. That's a corrective measure. A preventative measure would be, how do I make sure that I'm healthy in general? How do I make sure that my immunity is strong? How do I make sure that I have good hygiene? Anything that would have to do with making sure that I don't get sick to start with. This video is not about preventative measures, though I think it's very important. I actually want to dedicate more time and videos just for that. But if someone is already being pressured to lay off his workforce, then they're past preventative measures. They're right now they're forced to make a decision, so they have to take corrective action. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is mostly corrective measures. A few things come to my mind. I'm going to start from the bottom up. So one option, number 3, is furloughs. Some companies are doing that. They're asking their employees to take unpaid time off. It's pretty straightforward. The problem with that is that employees that are on furlough don't know when they're coming back. And actually, as an organization, you can't tell them when they're coming back because you don't know. And that could be very stressful for people. So my advice would be, be a human yourself as well. So if you're asking people to go on furlough, then try to give them some indicator on when possibly they can come back. You can't give a date, obviously, but you can give an indicator of what situation or what metric you're looking at to get there. So my advice would be, look and find that metric that you can share with other people. Say, for example, my revenue needs to reach a certain target before I can bring back my workforce. And my advice would be to make that a transparent goal on the organization. So anyone that's still in the organization, they're aware that this is a new company goal, and they're helping to work towards it. They're looking at it and looking at the progress together with you. Option number 2 would be creative on how you're looking at your cost. So you want to improve your costs, you want to reduce your costs, and you don't want to let go of people. One company that made headlines recently is Gravity Payments, and they took an innovative look at it. Their CEO, I think his name was Dan Price, talked with his team and told them, hey, listen, reality is I have to bring our costs down by 20%. We're dealing with micropayments, and that obviously is not really strong right now because of COVID, and we need to bring our costs down that much. But I don't want to lay you guys off, so let's figure out how we're going to bring our costs together. And he sat down with them individually and asked them each to write on a paper how much they're willing to go without in their paycheck. What kind of cut are they willing to take? Some are able to take more off because they're single, they don't have any obligations, and some less so. And he was able to bring down his costs and not lay off anyone because he was able to find that innovative solution. Number 1, which I would argue is the most important thing, is be innovative with your revenue. What is your current revenue stream? Look at it and ask yourself, what's changed since COVID started? Obviously, it's a new world now. How are we going to pivot to match that new reality? One example that also made headlines is this pizzeria in Chicago. They were making most of their money off of selling pizza slices, which obviously is not so hot right now because of COVID. And they lost something like 70% of their revenue because of COVID. And so they sat down together and asked themselves, what can we do instead? And so what they decided to do is build face shields. And their oven was hot enough for them to mold the plastic that's required for these face shields, and they started manufacturing them and selling them at pizzeria, right? So in conclusion, I'll say, all these are corrective measures that you can look at as alternatives to laying off your workforce. Though I will add this, they are corrective in nature, but they have a lot of foundations that probably were laid down there that are more preventative in nature. Dan Price, the CEO that we were talking about that didn't want to lay off his people, he made headlines 4 or 5 years ago by increasing his minimum salary in the company, which was way above the minimum wages in the state that he's located in. How was he able to do that? Well, he worked with his company and his employees. He slashed his own salary to be able to do that, and he gained their trust. So he was able to have this conversation 4 or 5 years later about cutting their salaries because they trusted him. So that was groundwork that he laid a long time ago. The pizzeria, they probably had some sort of realization as an organization, even if it's a small restaurant, that they need to be continuously learning. Peter Senge, in his book, The Fifth Discipline, talks about a disability, a learning disability called I am what my title is. So for example, that pizza, someone that's working at that pizzeria may say, well, my title is, or my role is that I toss pizza dough. That's what I do. And if he stuck to that, then he wouldn't have a job right now. But he was able to pivot and say, well, you know what? I can also mold plastic to put on the shields that we're building. So don't get stuck on what you currently do as an organization or as people as your title. And even the furlough example that I gave, if you're not as a company used to looking at metrics together, talking about them, sharing them, looking at progress together, then it's going to be really difficult to do something like that right now in this situation, in these current issues that we're facing. I look forward in the next video and following videos to talk more about preventative measures that you can take of your company, so you don't have to be in a situation where you're reacting and trying to take corrective actions all the time. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay human.